can be considered in many kind of different ways. Ultimately, all it means is basically a redirection from what has become normal and perhaps even abnormal in ways that you look at, and then transitioning to something that's more inclusive, more broad, more participatory. So for me, change really defines a movement to a more normal kind of society, where I think part of it is driven by inclusion, broad context of inclusion, that transgresses everything from race, just general kind of broad association. So for me, change is a critical part of humanity, in that we consistently are transitioning from one different way of seeing the world to a perspective that's redefining things. And hopefully one day it will all come together, and the world will be a better place. What do I believe that most people don't believe? That I think we're all capable of multiple things, and that we're driven by purpose. And again, this applies across gender lines, across racial lines. I think certainly in the developing world, we don't tend to get as much credit for the unique opportunity to drive innovation. And I think the rest of the world is going to be incredibly surprised and pleasantly surprised. And I think it's good when innovation, technology, impact is driven universally across the world, where the best ideas find themselves where they're most needed. And I think right now, the way that the world is run, a lot of it is driven through Western models, and certainly there's value in some of the unique opportunities that I think the developing world can bring, in terms of the context of bringing people up, so the base of the pyramid upwards. And certainly I think a lot of the solutions can come from South Africa, can come from the rest of the continent of Africa, and again can be applied in multiple different cases in the rest of the developing world. Well, again, one, I think primarily for me, that's a big one, it's a total injustice, is access to broadband and access to affordable internet. I think for me, as someone who's worked in the space for almost a decade now, I recognize the opportunity that access to the World Wide Web has, and the impact that it can have in uplifting people out of poverty, in creating and opening up an opportunity platform for people to exchange ideas and to drive change where it's most needed. Certainly I would hope that multiple governments throughout the world would drive a consideration, including the corporates that make these tools available, a more broader conversation around affordable access to the World Wide Web. And certainly with that in mind, as the developing world kind of showcases youth impact, that opportunity will mean that in the next 2 or 3 generations, we begin to start seeing a very different way that young people learn, young people access opportunities, and young people see the world. Fear to me is false evidence appearing real. So again, I never am scared of anything, because primarily if it can't break my bones and if it can't hurt my feelings, I'm pretty sure that I have a firm foundation. And part of my faith is that where God has an opportunity for me to move forward in things, He wouldn't burden me with things that I could not handle. So for me, fear is it's a non-factor. So unless obviously it's kind of got a physical potential breaking my bone or potential death-defying kind of context. Beyond that, yeah, I'm pretty fearless. Especially when it comes to people and circumstance, I'm pretty upstanding and pretty strong and headstrong when it comes to opportunities. And again, it's the same mindset that I carry and I encourage others to sort of say, for me, fear is false evidence appearing real. So it manifests itself in a way that creates anxiety, that creates a weakness, that creates victimhood. And for me, it's a non-issue ultimately, because I think with every circumstance, as long as you're not likely to get hurt, you should be fine.